What's up, guys? Happy Sunday. Welcome to another edition of Unwind with Raya. As you can probably see, it's a lot brighter out right now, courtesy of the sun. I'm a big fan of that thing. But no, I'm doing a little bit earlier today. Sunday, like I said, Sunday evenings are usually my most chill time of the week. So I thought I'd surprise you guys and do, maybe what is this, like a 3 o'clock stream for me, but maybe it's a little bit earlier for you guys. We'll see how this goes, because for some reason my internet's been a little choppy this weekend, so I don't know what that's about, but hopefully this isn't too bad on your end and you can kind of get cozy and hang out. But so far it's looking pretty pretty decent at least. Um, so yeah, I got my cozy hoodie on, and today actually it's probably gonna be a bit of a long one, um, for two reasons. I want to do some of my piano practice today, so I'm kind of letting you into that side of my world. So you'll get to play some piano with me. It might be a little scuffed. I don't know. You'll have to let me know how the audio sounds, because it'll probably be like a half hour me playing and just jamming and practicing, and you'll hear missed keys and all that stuff. So don't judge too harshly, but yeah, I thought it'd be a little fun, a little switch up for things, because I love playing instruments and music, and that's going to be a big part of what this is. I just haven't recently, so yeah, we're going to do that. And then, so if you're not interested in that, probably skip ahead maybe a half hour, 45 minutes. And then we're going to talk about travel, which is one of my all-time favorite topics. So that's probably one of my favorite things to talk about, which is why this is going to be probably a longer stream, because I adore talking about travel, talking about my travels, listening to other people talk about their travels, kind of picking people's brains on, where you've gone, what made it so special, or where'd you go and you didn't live up to your expectations. I love all of it. So we'll get into that. We'll get into, maybe my trip to Hawaii, my trip to Mexico City, maybe my trip to Europe, maybe my East Coast trips or my Midwest trips, just to, I don't know, chat about it and talk about it. It's always fun, right? Like reliving, like when you tell a story, you almost relive it. And so that could be a good part for me, is like I'll be able to relive it as I'm telling you guys the story of my trips. But also looping back, the second reason it's going to be a longer stream is because I love, on my end, like as a viewer, I love the longer streams. Like I know it doesn't quite mesh well with like today's, I guess, climate of like short and sweet, 6 seconds, that's all you got. 10 seconds, that's all you got. 3 minutes, that's all you got. But on like I'm the type where like I love if like my favorite streamer streaming for 2 or 3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, I love it, because it means I got that much like to listen to, and like I know I always got that. If like my streamer streams maybe once or twice a week, at least an 8-hour stream will give me, a few days worth of listening, like while I'm at work or while I'm bored, or, I'll have it on while I'm cooking. Like I love when like people are like my streamers stream longer. Actually, full disclosure, let me just make sure this is looking good on your end, but full disclosure, last night I was gonna stream. Remember I told you, okay. Can you hear me? People are like my streamers stream longer. That's so meta. Actually, full disclosure. Let me just make sure this is looking. Wow. Okay. But yeah, full disclosure. The reason I wasn't here yesterday, because remember I said look out for maybe Saturday. One of my favorite streamers, Foozly, she was streaming some role playing like GTA stuff, and I got so caught up in it because there was like some hilarious moments. And usually I don't like role playing. I don't like the GTA scene, but she was playing this new version of it, and so it was like she was starting from the beginning. And I think that was a big reason why I couldn't get into it before, was because she was already so well engrossed in this like setting, and like they had all their storylines and all their like relationships formed already. So it's like you get dropped in the middle of that, and I'm kind of like, I don't know what's going on. But yesterday was like the first day she was playing No Pixel 2.0, I think. And if you happen to watch it, oh my goodness, there was some of these funniest moments I've seen. Like I was crying laughing at this part where she met this guy, and it was just so cinematic, because it's like she met this dude in the game, and they were like wandering around like getting to know each other, and she was gonna like introduce her or him to like her friends or whatever in the world. and she's like on the phone calling her friend or whatever, and then off, like just almost off screen, just a little bit like on screen, you could see her friend like try to steal the car, and he like kicked the car, and the car just ran forward, ran him over. Like it was perfectly done. It was so funny. I was like, I was crying laughing. My dog was like, "What's going on with you?" Like it was so funny to see. It was just perfect. Like, and there was just a bunch of times throughout that stream that like just was hilarious. Just it made me like get it. Like my brother Nick was telling me like, you know, her role playing streams are some of the funniest, and like I caught a few, but like nothing like crazy. And you know, it usually maybe like 20 minutes here at a time because that's all I could really process. But that one I watched for hours just because it was such a vibe and it was so funny, and I got it. Like I understood why people like watching like the role players, because it was hilarious. But yeah, I got my chalky milk today. Get my chalky milk. So yeah. So today the first little bit of this is just gonna be some piano. So you'll get to listen to me play a little bit and just mess around with keys and kind of learn and just practice a bit. And then we'll get into some travel. And also shout out to Sandy. Sandy, if you're watching this, I promised you a shout out. Here it is. Sandy's real cool. Yeah, we like Sandy. So happy Sunday if you're watching. All right, so like I said, this is probably going to be quite scuffed, but it'll be all right. So if you have any issues with the audio, let me know. I'll try to keep an eye on messages coming through, but this will just be maybe a half hour practicing, and I'll kind of, I don't know, maybe I'll provide commentary, maybe I won't, I don't know, but here we go. I'm just kidding. There's no first one. I don't really like to play full songs. So here we go. And I know you're not going to be able to see the camera off, or the piano off stream, but I assure you there's a piano here. Full size. Can you hear that? Sorry, you're probably hearing less mic movement. Now, I'll give you a gold star if you can recognize this song. out there know the band Big Bang. They're a Korean band, and they got a song called Loser. I don't speak Korean, so I don't know that. I can't sing the lyrics, but I love that song. That part reminds me of like a Taking Back Sunday bridge. My dog barking in the background. He thinks he can vocalize. Papito! That's enough. Alright, bud. Also, it's like a lot lower, like to where I have it, so this kind of hurts my posture. So, or my back. So, let's see how long this lasts. But Any Daniel Caesar fans out there? My dog. You hear my dog trying to get comfortable. He is all over the place. But we love him though. Okay. So lately I've been playing a lot of I've been liking really pretty melodies with the springtime. I was telling you guys last time or a few times ago when the windows open in the springtime, it's just fully in there, the wind blowing through in the sunlight. I love playing really kind of pretty melodies, pretty chords, pretty keys. I've been learning this Chopin piece. Actually, I can show you what I've got so far, but don't laugh because I'm a measure and a half in. So this is what I got. Ooh, actually, I forgot most of it. Yeah, that's about it. I can't even remember. It's. I think this one's in E major, which is one of my favorite keys, which is why I decided to learn it. But so far, it's slow and steady. It's my first Chopin piece, and I understand why it took me so long to get to it. Like he's probably my second favorite composer behind Brahms. But let me do this a little more. He's my second favorite composer, and his stuff, if you haven't like listened to it in a while, man, it puts you in this mood, this like perfect vibe. Just it's so romantic but also poetic. And I get it. I get classical music isn't for everyone. I get that. I mean, a lot of my friends find it boring or like, like why do you even listen to it? But like, I don't know. It's like it's another one of those things where nothing else kind of satisfies that itch in your brain like classical. A lot like I listen to a lot of like what do they call it, post rock, math rock, kind of like the explosions in the sky, this will destroy you, like those instrumentals that you hear on Friday Night Light soundtrack. Like that's like the same kind of, the best way I can explain it is that same vein of like instrumental, but like certain melodies and progressions and like builds just scratch that itch in your brain where you're like, man, that's beautiful. And Chopin has a few of his that just like they hit. I hate the phrase hit different, but they hit different. Like those just, man. Maybe we'll have a classical day and we'll go through some of my favorites and maybe go through some of yours and see, like compare them. But I really loved like the romantic era, like composers. I think Chopin was romantic era. I don't know. I'm not good with Jurassic, Triassic. I don't know the dinosaur times, but like, so yeah, his was E major. Which is such a pretty key. Kind of reminds me of like springtime. And then what is that? I guess B flat minor would be the, which is still really pretty. So what I do is like whenever I learn a new song in a new key, or in a key I'm not like super familiar with, I'll go ahead and just mess around with the chord phrasings in that key. Like for this one, I guess would be what? B flat minor. Sorry. My apologies. D flat minor. B major. Let's go G flat minor. Let's go back up to A. So that right there. Then throw maybe in the E. Up to G flat. Up to A flat. Up to A. But it's so pretty, right? So let's start on E. A. B major. My dog's just like looking out the window, just straight staring and licking his lips. And you can probably hear him. But doesn't that just sound like you're like floating above the clouds, kind of? Like, let me watch this. Let me add some higher notes. Let's do. Oh yeah, that's right. Let's try this. Keep hitting that minor key and not that, or that minor chord and not that major. Papito. thing that every instrument like humbles you. Like it teaches you something, whether to slow down or like. That's why it's important. It was important to me. Like I didn't want to have something practiced out for you guys. I didn't want to have it something like perfectly fleshed out and practiced, like rehearsed a million times where it's perfect. That's, you get enough of that on Instagram where it's like you see the finished version, but you don't see all these little missed keys and restarts. Like, man, I kid you not, I'll restart a song 10, 15 times to just even be able to play it through one time, slowly without messing up. So it's like a process, like in the instrument, or anything really. But it's important. I don't care. Like I like the mess ups more. Well, that's not true. But I like the mess ups. Like I feel like they're so necessary. You got to see the mess ups. I don't want you to think I'm perfect at anything, like, because I'm not. But the mess ups are, yeah, they're not great, but I'm keeping them in. Fight me. Let's try it one more time. Okay, buddy. Messed up my take, bud. Come here. Leave him alone. Leave him alone, buddy. Okay? Be nice. Why is my brain not working right now? can't remember. I don't know how to play the Kanye. Dang it. All right, we'll play for a few more minutes, and then we'll talk about some travel. Hey, puppy. Come here. People must be walking around. Hey. Leave him alone, okay, buddy? Be nice. You gotta be nice to the people, my guy. He doesn't make friends well. I got some strawberry milk in the fridge. Okay, let's do... Ooh, I like this chord progression. and then we'll be out of here. So I know I talk a lot about Gregory Alan Isakov, but he's got a song called If I Go, I'm Going, and it's so pretty. And might as well see if I can figure out the chords. So it looks like it's E flat, so E flat to A flat. I think these are all major. C minor, B flat. So E flat, A flat, C minor, B flat. Is that right? Yeah, E flat, A flat, C minor, B flat. Let's try that. So essentially it's that part's not it. I just like to walk down. It sounds even better when you kick it down. Hopefully, you guys, you can hear me. All right, so we're back. We're gonna take a quick break so I can get some snackies, get my chocolate milk. I finished my chocolate milk. So, ASMR. So I'm gonna get some strawberry milks, and then we're gonna dive into travel. And I am excited because I can go on and on about travel. So let's Yeah, let's take a quick, maybe 5-10 minutes, um, and then let's get into it. I'm back. Sorry, I had to take my puppy out. Had to go potty. But why do dogs look like absolute gremlins when they go poop? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know when they hunch over and they fold over, like they're like concealing like some gold they stole, or like they're about to mug you. Like, I swear. And then if they make eye contact, that's like the worst. Like, I got this little brown fuzzy gremlin just staring at me, like just one of them right there. Just, he about to stab me real quickly. He gonna pull a knife on me? I never know. Hopefully this sounds good. Hopefully everything is back to normal. Yeah. Gremlins, man. Hopefully you got your snackies. I got my cashews, my strawberry milks. So if you don't like listening to people chew, you might need to mute it. This might be some ASMR stuff. Anyways. All right. So we're going to talk about travel today. And travel is one of my all-time favorite things to do in this world. I have done a fair bit of traveling, but I'm always looking to do more. That's like the driving factor in my life, is like saving money to take a trip, or saving vacation days to take a trip, or I'm always just thinking about, okay, where can I go? So I'd be curious to see if anybody else is like that, like you enjoy traveling as well. I'm sure it's probably pretty common, because, you know, especially where I'm from, where the Midwest is super freezing for like half the year. Everyone just dreams of taking a warm vacation. Like, it's ingrained in you that, you know, if you get the means, or if you've able to save up, you kind of go south for a weekend or like a week trip somewhere. But let's see. Let me start, I guess, the present. I want to take my next trip. I want to go to Japan. So if anybody has been to Japan, if anybody can give me travel tips to Japan, I am all about it. I'm trying to go to Tokyo, obviously, for so in total, I want this trip to be like three or 4 weeks, because I want to just be there long enough to like be immersed in it. My puppy, yeah, puppy, Nashville. He's actually named Nashville because I love the city of Nashville so much. Took a trip there. Spent a lot of time in Nashville. Hey, calm down, buddy. That's not how you make friends. Hey, I see the mischief in your eyes, you little gremlin. I see it. But yeah, I'm trying to do a 3 or 4 week trip to Japan. I want to do maybe a week or 2 in Tokyo, and then I want to do a couple days in Osaka, a couple days in Nara, a couple days out. Like, I really want to see the Hitachi like gardens. If anybody's been out there, please let me know how it is. Was it better than you expected? Was it worse? Like, what's the expectation level? Because I always just see online all these beautiful pictures of like these gorgeous fields of blue and purple and violet, and, you know, just as far as the eye can see. Like, when they bloom, it's just incredible. You're like in a sea of, I don't know what flowers they have out there, but I saw a picture where it's like a sea of blue, just blue flowers as far as you can see. And it's like, it was cool because the blue sky and the blue flowers is just incredible. So if anybody's been out there, please let me know, leave a comment, some tips. But then I also want to go up to Sapporo. Now I don't know if I would be able to do that in this one trip. And also I'd love to see Sapporo in the wintertime, so it might be a separate trip. But I think Sapporo is at least a few hours northeast of Tokyo. But it seems like much more my speed. It's like except for it's like freezing. Like that's the only part that brings it down for me is it is cold in the wintertime, like real cold, and a lot of snow. I think maybe it's mountainous. I don't know, but it's just like kind of, excuse me, it's like smoke. Ooh. My body's trying to kill me. You ever get that swallow, that weird swallow? That weird swallow hits you and then it's like, whoop, I had a good run. My body can't breathe now and my life flashed before my eyes. My life flashed and there was like a glaring lack of Krispy Kreme donuts. So now that I'm back in business, I know what my first stop's going to be. But yeah, Sapporo's like, it looked more like condensed, and it looked quaint. It looked almost like, I guess, the Japanese version of like a mountain town out west, or even down here south. It's like, it's, I don't know how to describe it, but it looked really cool. And so that's the trip I'm planning now. And ideally I would go in, I want to say the end of next spring would be perfect. I want to try to go on a few smaller trips before that. I want to go to LA because I've never been. I just want to see it. And honestly, I just want to, so as it's well established now, I am heavy into like Korean culture, Korean food. So I want to go to the Koreatown in LA and just kind of explore and just wander and eat and eat and eat and eat. Like I want to eat some of this like just crazy good Korean food. And I'll make it out to Seoul. But I want that to be a family trip. Like I want to go out with my fam because my fam also is like, a lot of us are like really into like Korean culture. So it'd be really cool. Plus it seems like that's more, I don't know, I could be wrong. It seems more of a group-oriented culture. Like it feels like everything I've read and seen, it's kind of weirder if you're just a solo traveler out there. Like even here, I don't go to like those barbecue places where you cook your food in front of you just because like I feel like that's for a group. I feel like you add meat on all these ingredients. Like there's a lot of things I can't order because it's just too big for one person. Like it's just weird. Not that I'm like one to feel weird about things. Like I do it today. It's just, I don't know. It's one of the few things that doesn't feel as fun. Like if it's just me. And I feel like with Japan, I feel like that everything I've seen and read it's way more conducive to like a solo trip. Like I have no problem going and sitting solo, eating a bowl of ramen, or like eating like, I guess finding things that like aren't communal. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm like the dead opposite. That's just my perception, I guess. But also I would love, I don't know, when I envision trips, like, when I'm daydreaming, because I daydream a lot. And let me turn myself down. I daydream a lot. And so in my daydreams, when I picture Japan, I'm like solo. I'm like wandering around the streets in my own little world, kind of like I'm in Your Lie in April, just like an anime, just chilling, just wandering around, exploring and eating. But when I picture a trip to Seoul, I always just imagine my family there, or like we just rent a big old Airbnb somewhere in the city and sometimes we're solo exploring, sometimes I'm with my fam, or like we go, I don't know, whatever the pairings are. It's just, I can only picture that, and so that's what it's going to be, because anything else would be like a disappointment. So that being said, I want to go to Koreatown in LA first. Like it's more manageable. I know it's obviously LA. It's not gonna be like Seoul. But I don't know. I feel so comforted around like, I don't know, like Korean culture. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just that I've seen so many TV shows and movies, and um, maybe it's I got heavy into K-pop when I was younger. I don't know what it is, but I just really have like an affinity and like a love for Korean spots. Um, so yeah, I go out to Koreatown in LA for, I want to spend like a week out there, like a weekend, 4 or 5 days, something. Maybe this fall, and then I want to go to Miami in the wintertime, because I've always wanted to go to Miami in the winter, because I'm pretty much in central North Carolina. Even in the dead of winter, which is like completely mild compared to where I'm originally from, it's still a little chilly for me. Like we have those days where it's like, 30 degrees out and like the high of like 30. And that's too cold for me. Like, and I always be looking on the weather apps like, oh, Miami, what's Miami looking like right now? And it'll be, it'll be like 60 degrees, 70 degrees, even 80 degrees sometimes. I'm like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? But then also, Miami has never been like like I said, I'm not a big partier, and like I know Miami gets that like rap of like being like a party club scene, like, especially like the heydays of the 80s where like everything like crazy was going on. And I'm sure every city is not only its stigmas, right? Like Miami, I'm sure has really, really cool areas and cool pockets that make it like, I mean, I could really fall in love with it, I'm guessing. Like I love, kind of the Caribbean culture, and I know they've got a big influence from that. So, maybe I'll be able to find areas. I'm sure I will. Like I avoid the club scene like the plague. Like I don't go within like maybe a mile radius of all that stuff. So I'll be able to find little pockets of like, cool coffee shops and cool restaurants and just cool spots to entertain myself. But obviously they've got the beach. And one thing about your boy is I love a good beach. Like I could stay at the beach I have stayed at the beach for for an entire day at a time. I wake up I remember one time I was in South Carolina. Yeah, I was in one of the beaches out in Charleston, and I woke up at like 9 a.m., which is about the time I like to wake up. Ate breakfast, had coffee, got to the beach by 11, and just stayed like laid out on a chair with an umbrella from 11 to like 10 p.m. Got home, went to sleep, woke up, did it the next day. Like, and I have no problem. Like I was not bored at all. I just love laying out. Like most of the time I don't have any music in. Be nice. He is on one today, so you get to hear his excitement, which you get to see it all. You get to see the piano, you get to see the snacks, you get to see my cozy stuff, you get to hear my puppy barking. Welcome to my life. But the beaches, like I can most times I don't have any music in. I just like to listen to the waves. It's something I think it's ingrained in a lot of human beings. Like a lot of people I guess have the same kind of trait where the sound of ocean waves are therapeutic. And it makes sense, right? There's a whole section of like ASMR, like meditation, that it's just ocean stuff, right? Hey, your boy's trying to stream, buddy. Nashville, come on. Don't be rude. Hey, come here. No. Here, I'm gonna shut this door so he can't get out. Puppy. All right, did it get dark again? This is more like what it looks like when I'm regularly streaming. So hopefully it's not too dark for you, but it looks all right. Let me see. Yeah, that'll be fine. But so yeah, like it's just therapeutic, like listening to the sounds of the waves. And I'll just lay out there for entire days. Just I love like that noon heat, that sun, just direct, and you just kind of you're just hot, right? And you're sweating, and then it just 3 o'clock hits, and it's just almost feels even warmer. But then the ocean breeze just kind of keeps it manageable, right? And then somewhere along the lines, the sun starts setting a little bit more, and before you know it, it's like 6 or 7. It was just like prime time at the beach, because it's cooler now. That breeze is almost a little bit chilly, so it's usually when I start like putting on the hoodie or whatever, and then like sunset to like moonrise is like my favorite time at the beach, because usually people have cleared out, and if you know anything about me, I like to be around as few people as possible, almost at all times. So like once the beach clears out, it's just me in my little corner of the world. I'm listening to the waves, I'm watching the stars come up, while I'm watching the sunset and the stars come up. And then I don't know if you've ever watched the moon rise over the ocean, but that is one of the most healing things of all time. Like the way the waves kind of look when the moon's coming up, like it's reflecting off that, is just incredible. And I remember the last time I saw one was, I want to say maybe October or November of last year, and I went out to my favorite beach in Carolina, and it was just this incredible. Like from a distance, I didn't know the moon was supposed to be like this incredible that night, right? It was like some special moon, but I was like watching, and all of a sudden there was just this orange, like big orange glow in the distance, and I just see, like, at first I'm like, is that a boat, like a huge boat on fire or something? Like it was like magnificent almost. It was like, what is happening? And then slowly it just like got bigger and bigger, and I was like, I really thought something was wrong. Like I thought like something was on fire in the ocean, or something was coming towards us. Like it just looked that impressive and that surreal. And but slowly and surely, like once it started rising, I could see like the hump, or like the, you know, the cheeks of the moon. That cheek got a thing on it. That moon got a thing on it. I just saw like the round, and I was like, oh, that's the moon, and it was incredible. It was just glowing and like burnt orange, like a deep orange, and the way like the waves looked like gold, and it just kept rising and rising. The stars were out, and nobody was around, and I had Nashville with me, and it was just, and the breeze was coming in, and the sound, and it was like, it just like washed over me. It's just like, I almost felt like a new person after this. Like after experiencing this, I almost felt like I'm changed now. Like I'm different. Like it just was so spectacular and so refreshing. Like, so that was I loved it. And that was another day where I spent like all day on the beach just hanging out. Man, we were going to talk about travel, but we're really only talking about the beach, right? Talking about the ocean. No, I guess we talked about Japan, but strawberry milk. It's actually been a long time since I've had strawberry milk, and I just had a craving for it like last week. So I went to my local Publix, and and got it, and it's not bad. Makes me feel like a kid, like a little, because I used to drink strawberry milk when they had it when I was a little kid, but it's been a minute since I've had it. But all right, let's get knee deep into some travel. Let's get into the yuck of it, like the real stuff. I'm sorry, this is gonna be crunchy for just a second. I want to get a little bit more comfortable today. I want to be able to lean back. Hopefully the shadow isn't too crazy, but it's all right. Hold up, let me get a little more light in here. Hey, what's up, Deathy Jero? Is that how you say it? I love you too. I'm glad I saw that. Hopefully I said that right. Deathy Jero? But we're talking about travel today. We're talking about where we've been, where we've experienced, what draws us to places. I was getting a little bit more comfortable. So, hey, puppy, that's not for you. That's for the ambiance, not for barking. But yeah, so traveling. Let's see. Let's start with my favorite place of all time. My favorite place of all time would be Paris. I love Paris to death. That place is everything you want it to be and more. It's like super old, like the architecture is so amazing. The food is delicious. The people, puppy, come over here. The people are actually a lot more friendly than I thought. And it was just a whole experience. And the bread is incredible. Like the bread, I'm not a bread guy. Like I've never been a bread guy, but I went to Paris and lived off baguettes like in the morning. Like it's just a different thing. I never understood why people would like rave about that. Like that was something to draw you to that place. But I understood when I started having some bread in the mornings with some jam or some butter. Like just incredible. Just amazing. So Paris is my favorite place, but a close second would be Mexico City. If you haven't gone to Mexico City, go. That place is such a vibe. It feels a lot like, I've never been to Savannah, but I feel like that's similar. I don't know. Just Mexico City has some of the most gorgeous tree-lined avenues you can imagine. Like, I remember I went in, I think it was November or December, and it was still like, 60, 70 degrees down there, 80 degrees. And the tree-lined streets were picturesque, like with the sunlight flowing through and just massive green, like leaves. Like everything had like a just an incredible feel to it. And not to mention, like, the people are so friendly. Like, everyone I met out there was just so kind and so, like, my Spanish isn't, like, incredible either. Like, my Spanish isn't, like, anything ridiculous. my Spanish isn't anything to write home about. Like, I literally couldn't write home about it. I couldn't write home with using the Spanish I have. It'd be like, hola mami, ¿cómo estás? Sin beer. That's it. But everyone out there is so willing to like help, or like they try their best to understand you or try to work with you. Or like, I did a lot of like this, like that. Like, I can do this. Like, what am I trying to say? Hamburger. And be like, hamburguesa? And be like, bet. Like, yeah, see. Just say por favor, just say please, and just act like you're trying, and they will help you out so much. Mexico City was like, and I know. Okay, let's point out the elephant in the room. I know a lot of people like get that perception of like Mexico's dangerous, and there are definitely places that are not advised to travel. I don't know what the areas are today, so I guess do some research before you go. And all I can tell you is about my experience. But like when I was in Mexico City, there was only one little pocket that like felt like kind of sketchy. And I get it. I was, I guess it was a few years ago. So I'm like late 20s, got a whole bunch of tattoos. I kind of like built a little muscular. So like I get that I can intimidate. Let's just say I'm the one that people across the street when they see me. They see me, they cross the street situation, not the other way around. So I get that I've got a certain je ne sais quoi. I've got a certain thing about me, that I'm not typically attracting some harm to come to me, right? But there's only one area in that whole place that I was through that I even felt a little bit like, ooh, okay, maybe walk a little faster in this area. But for the most part, every other spot was just so safe and so chill and just so artsy and so beautiful. Like, the people are beautiful. There's so many more tattoos out there. Like, there's so many more people with like visible like neck tattoos or face tattoos or like hand tattoos, and they're so like the artwork down there is incredible. Like, if you want to get a really, really cool tattoo, go to Mexico City, link up with an artist down there that you like their work. They're doing some incredible stuff. Outside of maybe I've seen like Seoul, South Korea has some artists on another level. Like, Mexico City has some stuff too. Like, they've got some just incredible artists that, it's just a different culture down there. It's just, and like, so that brings me to like when I'm seeing like all these like tattoos just from people regularly, like out here, like where I'm at in North Carolina and even in Iowa, it's like, okay, tattoos are starting to get a little more popular. You're seeing more hand tattoos, more face tattoo, more neck tattoos, stuff like that. But it's still a dime a dozen. Like, when you're walking down like a main downtown area, and down here it's like I'm the one. I'm the one with the hand tattoos. I'm the one with the neck tattoos, It's like every once in a while you run into somebody with that, like, that has it. And I'm not talking like at a concert or something. Like, if you go to somewhere that like a lot of people look like you. Like, if I go to a pop punk show, obviously people are going to have tattoos, because like that's kind of the culture. Like, tattoos and pop punk, like, or punk music, that goes together. So you're going to see that more. I'm talking like a regular day. You're going out to brunch with your friends. Who do you see? Right? And down here, up here, it's like very few people have like visible tattoos. But down there, it is so widespread. And they're like real cool tattoos too. Like, some of them, like I saw a lot. The one that sticks out to me is like one had like a geometric like gradient color, or color gradient, like going down the neck, that looked real impressive. And one, like, I remember there's just a lot going on that's like so stimulating for my brain. Like, so many cool. I want to go up to everyone and be like, hey, who did that? Like, where'd you get that kind of situation? Because it was like art that I had not seen before, like styles that were just new to me, and that was so exciting. So if you're thinking about getting a tattoo and you're going to Mexico City anyway, merge them together. But yeah, everywhere felt safe. I got some incredible food. What made me sad was I got back up through customs, and I remember, I'm only sharing this because it ruined my day actually. So just picture, I just had this amazing 1 week trip down in Mexico City. I had a blast. All the people were as kind as can be. Felt so safe. Explored a good bit of the city. I'm coming back like on a high, right? And I come back through customs, and like the first person who greets me is the dude at the customs, and he's pretty much like checking, the whole, it's a hassle. It's like, hey, what were you down there for? What did you visit people? Did you know people? He was giving me the rundown. I'm like, no, I didn't know anybody. I was traveling solo. And he gives me this look like, you should, and then he literally says to me, you should be more careful where you travel. Not all places are safe. And that hit me like a gut punch. Like, obviously not all places are safe. Obviously I did some research before. I mean, I don't know what I look like, but I did some research. But I don't think of these things at the time. I wanted to tell him off so bad, but he literally gets to decide, right or wrong. He gets to decide whether this is a headache for me or not. This whole situation. This whole situation is like good or not. So it was just one of those things. I had to bite my tongue, even though the words weren't really coming anyway. But like, I had to make sure I was careful and being not an a-hole, right? But it made me so sad that the first introduction that people get when they come into this country is someone like him. He obviously had no idea what Mexico City was really like as a tourist, I guess. I don't know what he's seen. I don't know the instances he's had from people coming from the city. I don't know. But it was so ignorant to me that he was like, just blanket statement. He knew I was coming from Mexico City. He just said, be smarter. When I just had this incredible like trip full of good food and good experiences and good laughs with good people. And he just boils it down. He's just forever in his mind. He's just going to be like, if you go there, you're not going to have a good time because it's unsafe. I don't know. It just made me so sad that like, for all the people I met in like Mexico City, for like somebody to have that viewpoint of this place and to share that with others, like to try to convince other people in America that that's what it's like, when it couldn't be further from the truth. Like I kid you not. And I even get looks now when I tell people I went to Mexico City, they're like, not, you didn't go to Cabo or like San Luis Obispo or like places like that. Like, they're like, Mexico City? And I'm like, yo, I wish I could like take somebody down, like teleport down for like an afternoon, and it would just change your perception on that place. Like, it's so, I don't want to say ignorant again, but it's so like, we just blanket Mexico as like no bueno, or like scary, or just because of all this media coverage, all this like stuff of like obviously like cartels and like Juarez and like, we watch too much Narcos, I guess. Like you just see anything, as soon as you cross that border, like boom, it's bad. Or like obviously people coming up there, or like are trying to leave there for a reason, like that. The media portrayal of like the border towns and like that situation. Like it must be so bad that everyone's leaving. Like I get like, to a point. I don't know how. I'm not well versed enough on specific situations to speak on that per se, but I know all the people that I met in Mexico City were proud about Mexico City, and we're glad to be there, and were glad to share it with somebody else. Like they were letting me in on their beautiful spot in a sense. Like it didn't even feel like a big city, even though it's a huge city. It felt very charming and very kind. I can't stress enough like how many interactions I had that were positive with just kind people, like funny. Like I always say, one of the hardest things to do in a foreign language is be funny, because like comedy doesn't really translate too well a lot of times, like with the language barrier. But a lot of people, once they knew I primarily spoke English, like they would try and they would make jokes and it would be hilarious, and I'd just be like, yo, y'all good people. Like this is what I'm like, this is what I'm about. This is what traveling is for. It's like opening your eyes. Was I a little nervous before going? Yeah, because I didn't know what to expect. It wasn't necessarily fear, it was more excitement. And like, travel smart, obviously. If you're researching places and you see, okay, avoid this area at night, don't book a hotel in that area, don't book a B&B in that place. Like try to stick to spots that like at least online or wherever you're researching, like look reputable and look like safe areas. Like but it just made me so sad that this guy was like, he just like invalidated that entire trip. Not for me, but for that day. Like, because I was just sitting with these thoughts, like, man, if only he knew. Like, I bet he's never even been to Mexico City. I bet he's never even seen it. Like, if you went there and you had an awful experience and it was bad, then we can talk. Then you can tell me, why your experiences justify your viewpoint on this, right? But I can almost guarantee you the way he spoke about it told me all I needed to know. It told me he has never even been to this place. Because if he had, I'm just thinking these memories. I'm just thinking, I'm like, this. I took an evening stroll in this beautiful area. I mean, I'm talking like beautiful. It was like green trees and bushes and like the vibes. Those late night vibes in the city where everything feels like stringed lights. Like there were string lights everywhere. That low light, it was peaceful. The neighborhood was pretty quiet, and it was just kind of locals. And I went to this like Italian spot, and I could just hear chatter of like people speaking in Spanish or people speaking in like different languages, and it felt a lot like Italy actually. And it was just so comforting to be in that like neighborhood restaurant. I was sitting on the patio, and everything was, it was just so beautiful. And another time I'm thinking of like, I was getting a tattoo from this artist, and I was sitting in his studio. First of all, it is tough. Okay, that's the one thing about like going and getting something done in a foreign country is like, at least in this specific instance, there was no signs. There was nothing marked. Like it was a studio, and it was on Instagram, and I found it, and it looked reputable, and it was like, I've seen all this stuff. But I get there, I get dropped off at by the Uber, and I'm like looking, and I see like, it's kind of not a crowded area, but like there's people milling about. But like nobody really has tattoos, so it doesn't like cue me into anything. And I'm standing out here, and I'm like looking, like this is the address, but I'm looking at like all around, like seeing just like buildings that don't give me anything. Hold up, time out. Let me. I gotta put him in the other room for now. I'm back. How's the sound? He's gonna take a Nashville's gonna go take a nap for a while. He's gonna go take a little nap. But so yeah. So I'm outside. Uber just dropped me off. I'm in a neighborhood I've never been in Mexico City, right? And so I'm just trying to look at like for anything, any sign, any clues that like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to go, right? But I'm not seeing anything. I'm waiting. I'm like standing out there for a few minutes, just like looking for people, like who's going into a place, who's coming out. Like, anybody got tattoos and they got fresh wrapping? Like, I'm putting on my detective hat, right? I'm like Monk, or yeah, I'm just like zooming in on things, like using my context clues. You know, they got. What's going on? Do they look like they can draw? How's this working? But eventually I like look around and I see somebody coming out and they've got a bunch of tattoos. And that's usually a good sign that that's an artist, right? Like, they were covered, and I was like, bet. So I go up to that door and I go in, and I speak a little bit of Spanish, but like, so I'm in there in the room, like, or it's a building, and it's like a really cool spot because it's like a loft. You would not. It's like Mexico City in a microcosm. Like, from the outside looking in, you don't know what's going on. You're like, I don't know what this is, but you go in and it's dope. Like, it's real cool. They got like this loft space, like art hanging everywhere. They got really cool music playing like in the background. You know, there's people waiting on sofas. There's people waiting like on big old chairs, and you can see the artists doing work. Like, it's an open land, or like an open plan, so you can see like artists doing work here and there, and like, that was so cool. Like, I don't speak the language, so I don't know what was being said or anything, like more than like bits and pieces here and there. But it was really cool to be in that setting, getting a tattoo in like a really cool spot that like I would never know this existed if I hadn't like made the intention at the beginning of my trip to go to get one. I would never, driving by in an Uber, you would never know that this dope spot is there. But then once you go in, it's like a whole nother world. And I ended up getting worked. That tattoo took like maybe 5 or 6 hours, and it was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was anything more than 3, and you start to feel it. Like, I mean, obviously you feel it, but like, I start to like, I've got enough where it's like I can make it about 3 hours, and then after that, I'm like, ooh, how bad do I want it? Right? Like, do I want it enough to feel this for the next 2.5 hours? Like, do we need shading? Do we need highlights? Like, anybody out there who has tattoos, you know, them highlights are the worst. And the artists know it too. I know y'all know it. I know y'all know that the highlights are the worst, and it just every time just kills. But yeah, it was like a 6-hour session, and the dude was really dope about it. He was really cool. He knew that I was only in town for one, or I could only do it like in one session, really. So he was willing to stay and do the whole thing. He was really cool. If I can find his link, I'll link it to this, and you can check him out. But he's got some really cool stuff. Incredible artist. I want to go back and get another one from him sometime next time I'm in the city. But yeah, man, don't knock places till you try it. That's the key. Like, it made me so like I don't let things ruin my day very often. Like, nothing I don't let really get to me. But the fact that dude, that customs agent, was like the face. Like, he was the first person that probably thousands of people see a year. And that was his attitude toward a foreign city. Like, that's so sad. Like, that's so, like, I don't know if it was like, if there's some like underlying racism or or what was going on, but that's who we got there. Like, it just made me sad more than anything. Like, at first I was like angry. Like, I was like, dude, you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what it's, you don't know. And then it just made me sad because it's like he's got that perspective and he's sharing it with people. Like, that sucks. But enough about that. Mexico City is a whole vibe. If you go, get some tacos al pastor, get some hamburguesas. I lived off them cheeseburgers. You know, go get a tattoo. Go to the cafes, man. The cafes are legit. Like, they do cafes right. The coffee is amazing. The food is delicious. The people are, I mean, you're gonna have a good time. If you like charming cities with good food and good people, that's the spot. The only reason I wouldn't move down there, I mean, I've thought about moving down there. The only reason I don't think it's for me is because I need an ocean nearby, and they're pretty landlocked. So maybe like the Yucatan is more my speed, but as far as cities to visit, that's, like I said, I mean, I've been a lot of places, and that is number 2. That is number 2 on my list of most favorite places. So that should tell you something. Let's see. So it goes Paris, Mexico City, and then Charleston. Charleston's third on my travel list. Charleston is a vibe, my guy. Charleston is so cozy. Charleston is exactly what I wanted it to be. Like, it's a perfect southern city. It's got amazing food. It's got amazing people. And it's got amazing scenery. Like, when you go down there and you just hang out for a little bit, you just start feeling more southern. It's such a cool thing. Like, you see, the instant you see like the palmetto trees, which are just like essentially palm trees. I don't know what the difference is, but they just look like you're in the South. And you just smell that, like, just that food being made somewhere off in the distance, and it's so cool. And I met some really cool people. Actually, we got time for a story. Yeah, we got time for a quick story. So I the first time I went out to Charleston, I said, if you caught the last episode, a big reason why I went out to Charleston was because I'm big into like rom-coms, and Dear John was, like, I guess filmed in Charleston, or like supposedly took place in Charleston, but it really like sparked my curiosity of like what Charleston's all about. And so I remember one winter when I was just, Charleston's actually the reason I hate wintertime now. And the reason is, I went in December. I was still living in Iowa, right? And so I took a trip to Charleston for a week in like the middle of December, just right before Christmas. And I left Iowa. It was maybe 10 or 20 degrees. Landed in Charleston at night, and it was like 60 degrees. And still felt a little bit humid. Yo. That is a 40 or 50 degree difference. And it was at night. I left Iowa in the daytime, got to Charleston at night. It was still 40 or 50 degrees warmer. Come on, son. Come on. But anyways, my first time in Charleston was such a cool trip. It was one of my first like big solo trips. I mean, it was a week out there. And let's get into it. This is actually going to probably be, I don't know. hopefully by the end of this, you'll want to travel. Like that's kind of, it's making me want to travel the more I'm thinking about it. So I'm hoping it's doing the same for you. But I remember Charleston was cool for a majority, like a bunch of reasons. But one of the biggest was the people I met. And that's pretty wild of me to say, like, because for the most part, I stick to myself. Like I at least in my hometowns, in my home base, I don't interact with a lot of people. I prefer to do things on my own. So it's wild that my big takeaway from trips are the people, but it's true. So that's for all my introverts out there. If you're worried about traveling and the fact that you don't really like people, or like that's not ideal for you, take it from me that like it's possible you can be an introvert and still meet some really cool people on your trips that like change or like influence it in a positive way. So back to Charleston, right? I booked this Airbnb that's like kind of north of the main area. So it's like you got to pass through like a sketchy area to get up to it. Like the area itself is fine. Like the neighborhood is pretty safe, but like going up to it, like when you've never been to the city, it's a little dicey. Like it definitely, best way I describe it is like walking through there a few times. One person asked me if I sold cocaine, and the other person was asking me if I wanted some cocaine. Like that's kind of the vibe passing through. But the neighborhood itself was safe, and like the main area is pretty safe. So so yeah, at the Airbnb I rented from this girl. Let's call her C, because I don't want to put all her business out there. But C was renting out this spot, and it was a real cool spot. I remember I get there off the plane. It's like a maybe 4-hour plane flight from where I lived in Iowa, and she was real cool, really friendly, really helped me like navigate. She was giving me tips and stuff on where to go, and so then I explored the city the first day. I was just like on my own, like what I typically do. I just go start my day with some coffee. No, back up. I usually sleep in. So I sleep in that first day. I'm not trying to wake up at 7, 8 a.m. Nah. You can have that. You can have all of that. And when I'm on vacation, a big part of my vacation is feeling rested. And I do not feel rested if I'm getting up at 7 a.m. to go get brunch. That's not me. That's never been me. So I sleep in until like at least 8 or 9, 8:30 or 9. And then I get some coffee. And then this first day, I remember I went out and like hit up a brunch spot so I could fill my tummy with something delicious. And then I just wander. And I spend just hours wandering around, exploring neighborhoods and popping into shops and, I remember I saw the Battery, and like I saw, like the Battery is like this, pretty much this stretch of like walled road that like looks out onto the ocean or whatever, if that's a bay or an ocean, I don't know, but it's essentially what you think of when you look at those overviews of Charleston. And it's like you got the houses here, but then you've got the walled peninsula kind of looking thing, and then like the water over here. Like that's, I think, what the Battery is itself. And so I walked along that and kind of looked at all the giant, amazing southern houses that are probably either unoccupied or rented out at like incredibly outrageous prices, but they look beautiful. So I remember I wandered all along there and kind of explored, and then about mid-morning I went mid-morning for me is like noon. So like noon, I like popped into this spot, this grocery spot. I can't remember what it's called. It's like if it might be Queen Street Grocery, something like that. If you've been there, it's incredible. It's a really like charming, like grocery store, but also like smoothie and sandwich shop. So, and it became one of my favorite spots. And I got a smoothie from there and just sat out in the front little patio area or entrance area and like watched the horse-drawn carriages come up, and they like clobbled against the brick roads, and it was just a whole scene. Like there were like tourist people, like you hear the horses clapping along, and now here we have to our right the oldest plantation in the city, like that kind of thing, right? And it was cool. Like people were taking pictures, and I waved as they would go by, and I watched maybe 4 or 5 carriages go past, and was sipping on my smoothie. And then I kind of explored more of like the ocean area. I found this place called I'm slacking with the names. It's a park right on the bank, pretty much right on the. They've got swings that you can, like big old swings that you swing, and you can look at the ocean, and you've got it's a really pretty area. My favorite park in Charleston, actually. And so I went out there and I swung for quite a while, like an hour, just listening to the chatter of the people walking by and watching the ocean and seeing all these big cruise ships roll by. It was really crazy. And then I remember I stopped by on my way back up to the place I was staying, because it's like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. I was like, maybe I'll call it for the day, or maybe I'll just refuel and then come back down to like see the nightlife or whatever. And I ended up getting some Chinese food, and I got to the Airbnb, and I remember no one was there. And this one, this was my first trip, so I wasn't sure, if I should book one that's like just me. I had the whole place to myself. But this one, it wasn't like that. It was like it was a shared, or like a room. She had a room available, and I stayed in the room, right? Which actually, for this one specifically, I am so glad I did. Like normally, 9 times out of 10, I am very much give me my own space, my own entire area, not a shared space. Give me the bathrooms, the living rooms, everything, where I don't have to worry about seeing another person. But thank goodness I didn't on this one, because I remember I was eating my Chinese food in the living room, and she comes back from work, wherever she's at, and we just have like this conversation, and we're just like talking about different things. I remember I was watching Chuck, which is like one of my favorite shows, and I think I mentioned that. And she's like, "Oh, that's interesting, because we call this place Chucktown, right? Chucktown." And I was like, "What? That's awesome! I didn't even had any idea." So she kicks it with me for a little while. We talk, and then all of a sudden, like, I hear the doorbell ring, and she like kind of perks up and like acts surprised. And like I could tell like she wasn't expecting anybody. I wasn't. Obviously, I didn't invite anybody. And she like goes up to the door, and it's her friends, like a bunch of her friends, like 3 or 4 of like her real good friends had like stopped by and popped by to like surprise her, I guess, and like say hello. They were in the area, and best thing that could have happened, because they come in. I'm like I've finished my meal. We're all in the living room. Like they come in. I'm like, "Hey, yo, I'm Chris. Like, nice to meet you. I'm staying here for the week." And, everyone was super chill and super cool. And I'm just meeting. I think one of them might have been her sister or her cousin or somebody. But like, I don't know what it was, but we all vibed fast. Like, when you're in a spot where you're the odd man out, like you don't know any of these people. Like, you just started talking with like one of them. I guess it's a very specific situation, but long story short, we all were vibing real cool. Like they were very inclusive and like invited me into their conversations, and like I could tell they had a lot of shared history and like inside jokes, but like I was right there in there. Like they were like cool with me immediately. and I was holding my own. Like I was making jokes here and there. I was like throwing stuff out there, and it was really cool to have that. Like, and then because of that, they ended up inviting me out like the next night to like a show, and I was like, yeah, if I can make it, like, I'll come through, because I had nothing like concrete planned except for like a beach trip the day after that. So the next day, I going around doing my thing again, same kind of routine, exploring, and that night rolls around. I'm like, hey, I text C. I'm like, hey, y'all still going to that kind of like show? It was just like a bar, like a bar night, music night, I guess. I'm like, yeah. She hits me up, yeah. So I'm like, okay, bet I'll be there, right? So, anyways, so I get to the spot like pretty early because I'm hungry. Like, I was so glad it was at a bar, so I could eat food beforehand because I was just like, I mistimed my meals. And I was like, man, hopefully this isn't like a concert situation because I need some food in me. But luckily it was a bar. I think I got some nachos. Got smacked. I mean, I remember that, this trip was like close to 10 years ago. And I still remember that those nachos smacked. But, so I'm sitting there, I'm eating my nachos. Eventually C's friends show up first, right? And it was like one that I just met and then one that was like new to me. And like they come up and like they sit with me and join where I'm at, and it was really cool because it was like so fast, like free flowing so fast, like the vibe that like, okay, I like these people, like they're cool. Like it was instant. It was like, I don't know what it was, but like now, I was in a group setting with them and they were cool. But now I'm with one that I met and one that's a stranger in like a face-to-face situation, and they are just as cool. Like it was so cool. I never really met people that I got along with so fast. So I remember one of them was sick, and I was genuinely like, and this is before Corona, so like it wasn't like that crazy like like you gotta get out of here situation. It was more like, are you okay? Like I wasn't sure if it was a headache or like a stomach flu or whatever, but she was like, nah, I'm alright, I'm okay, but thank you for asking. Like I was genuinely worried, like concerned about her. And anyway, we're all like just chatting, like shoot the breeze for like, I don't know, a half hour, and then the band comes on, and the band's pretty good, and we're all just having a good time. We're just sitting and swaying and eating and listening to music, and eventually C shows up, and then it's the four of us, and we're just all just vibe and just having fun, just laughing, and I remember just looking around and just be like, man, this is cool. Like I get like if I had a group like this where I'm from, or like I do have good people in my life, don't get me wrong, but like a group that felt like this all together, I get it. It was that classic, like, those beer commercials, like where they're all like after work, they all meet up and they like, cheers, life's better at the beach, or you're your own beach, make your own rules, cerveza, dos equis. I don't know, those commercials, but it was like that. It would just felt like, oh, these would be my after work squad, where it's like yeah, and I could feel it like within those 30 minutes, like these are such good people. And so we're all four of us are just like chilling, listening to music. Eventually we're like, hey, like, let's go walk around for a little bit, right? They were like, they knew I was like new to town, so they wanted to show me around. And so we kind of went and walked for a while, and I went and we got this like, we went to Callie's Hot Biscuits in Charleston, and I think this is still when she only had the one location. I think she's popping off now, but she only had the one spot, and that was a that was a life-changing biscuit. I remember that was their recommendation, and we got it. And I got like I can't remember if I got the with the hot sauce. I don't remember what was on it, but it was just like the biscuit with the chicken was perfect, like flaky and crispy, and like easy. It was portable, so I could just eat it while we're walking around, and it was so cool. And I remember one part that sticks out to me that has never left me, and pretty much is, if you want to know who I am at my core, it's this. It's, I remember at one point, one of C's friends like stopped the one that was sick. She like turned to me. She's like, Chris, you know what I like about you? I was like, huh? I mean, my charm, my smile, my eyes, my receding hairline. What? She was like, I like that the entire time that we first met, you never asked me what I did. And I was like, you know what? You're right. The entire time that this was going on 2 hours now. The entire time, I think the first thing I said was like, are you okay? Like, are you sure you're good? Do you need anything? Like, you need some water? I had never asked her, like, what does she do? What does she do for work? Is she in school? Like, I never asked her what like her occupation was, or like what she does to make money, I guess, or fill her time. She was like, that is stuck with me so long, because that's who I am. I don't care about who you are. No, I care about who you are. I don't care about what you do for your job. I found that like, if you really love your job, it's going to come up in conversation no matter what. You're going to eventually tell me what it is that you enjoy, and if it's not your job, we're not going to talk about it, because I don't want to spend time talking about something that even you don't enjoy, right? It's like, I like knowing the things that make you smile or make you happy or like you look forward to. And if your job isn't one of them, let's not talk about it. But she was like, I like that you never even asked me what I do. And I kind of smiled. I was like, you're right. And that is stuck with me, because I still do that to this day. I don't typically, unless I'm in like where I feel like awkward, which is pretty rare. Like, I don't really feel awkward, but like unless I'm like backed into a corner at a social setting and I'm like just trying to fill time, or like then I'll ask like, hey, what do you do? Just to put the pressure off me. But when people like I genuinely like being around, I'm never going to bring it up. I'm going to let them bring it up. So that really stuck with me. We gotta do more of that. We gotta do less conversations about things we don't even care about. How about that? How about let's make a pact that we'll try to keep our conversations centered around things that we enjoy. But so anyways, then we just kind of enjoy it. I remember we ended up all piling into a car and driving back up to C's place, and we just hung out for another few hours after that, just listening to Justin Bieber and just kicking it, just really like enjoying each other's company, just laughing. They were telling me it was just cool to be a fly on the wall of like their shared history, and like kind of figuring out how they knew each other. And they'd come to find out like they met in school and became really close, and it was just cool to see that without like knowing concretely like the history. But then the big thing that did, besides giving me really cool experiences with cool people, was that kind of like bonded C and I. Like before, it was just like that, renter slash tenant relationship. There was like a clear boundary between, hey, here's the space I'm providing for you, and then me, I'm like, I'll be respectful of your space. I'll be respectful of you, But then after like hanging out outside of that, like, and meeting her circle, it like made us friends. And so then, that entire trip was so cool because I was like, when I get home from my day, like I would talk to her, and she would get home from work and she would talk to me, and it would be about real things. It'd be like, it was almost like we were like thrust into this, like, I don't want to say relationship, but like friendship, like where we were talking about our days in a way that you don't really talk to somebody like that you just met 4 days ago, right? But I remember she's a scientist, and she was doing like, I can't remember if it's like microbiology or like molecular something, but she was like she's really smart, and she was doing a lot of reading and research. But we'd talk about, I'd ask her like what she was working on, and she'd ask me like where I ate that day, and just back and forth, kind of it just was so nice. And your boy developed a crush. We're gonna develop some crushes. It's gonna happen. The boy. I dream. I got crushes. Sue me. So I developed a crush, but let's not even get into the crush. That was not all friendships got to be crushes, but it just happened to happen because I was very attracted to her. I don't know if it was mutual. I don't know, but forget I said that for now. There was just something. I remember maybe the 4th or 5th day I was there, I got back, and I think she was at the table like doing some research, and it was like so comforting to come home to somebody. And we talked for a little bit, and she said, hey, I'm gonna go like do the dishes. I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna catch up on some reading, right? So I lay on her sofa, and her living room is like right next to the kitchen, so like I can hear her like washing up, and she's singing a little bit, and and I'm just reading, and the amount of peace that brought me was like nothing I had never experienced before. Like, I am very much that person where like I feel uncomfortable when someone else is around. Like, add one person to the mix, like outside of my family, and I am not at my peak comfort level, if that makes sense. Like, I've always been this way where, like, if I'm in a room, like, I'm cozy, I'm comfy. But if I'm in a room and you add someone else, coziness goes down. And I don't know if it's like anxiety. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what it is, but it just happens. It's like, then I start like worrying, like, I don't know. There's added like a whole. We can unpack that. We'll unpack that later. But moral of the story is, she made me feel more comfortable. Like, if I was at like 100% comfort, she pushed me up to like 120% comfort. Like, and that's crazy. That was crazy to me, because that was like the first time I experienced that outside of my family. It's like being around somebody else made me feel more comfortable. Like, that's a statement that, like, that's big for me. So I remember she was just singing and doing the dishes, and I was just reading, and I was just smiling to myself, like, just feeling so at peace, just so comforted. And then the week goes by, we have more conversations and more fun time, and just like it's just such a cool experience. And I guess I'm not even really talking about the travel part itself, but this is fun too. But so I remember the last night. This is where the crush thing comes into. The last night, I remember she was upstairs, and I was reading in the living room. She was in her room, and at some point, the song "Strangers in the Night" starts playing. Right? I think it's Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin or somebody who's playing that song, and the lyrics of the song are pretty much like "strangers in the night." Like, it's a very sexy, like, strangers in the night, dun, 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 like old school, 50s, 60s, like romantic song. And like, I could almost not even, it's one of those things where like, if it wasn't the fact that I was renting a room from her, I would have tried to make a move. It's like, that's a sign. Like, that was like, there's no way that can't be intentional, right? That like, you're with somebody who's technically still a stranger, sharing the space together, and you're blasting "Strangers in the Night." Like, you could play any other song. Like, come on. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. So "Strangers in the Night" is blasting. I'm smiling. I'm reading on the couch, reading to my, like, just cheesing, just like in my head, just like, should I? Should I not? Should I? Should I not? But more than anything, I'm gonna be respectful, and I'm gonna, like, I'm very, ooh, got a bubble in my throat. I'm very, very cautious of like how I'm perceived, and like, not how I'm perceived, I guess. I'm very cautious of, like, especially like, look, I don't understand what it is to be a woman in society, or female. I've never experienced it, so I don't get it, but I try my best not to add to it, right? I try my best to make sure I'm not like an intimidating presence, or make sure that like I am allowing space, like in certain scenarios. Like, I'm not going to be the one that like comes up to you at night in a parking lot. Like, even if there's something I wanted to say, like, no, it's not going to happen, because I don't want even for a second for you to have that fear, like, because if you don't know me, or like whatever the situation is, I'm very, very aware of like, A, how I look, like what I look like with my tattoos, but B, like, that like women got it rough. Y'all ladies got it rough in this, like, especially with like men can be the worst. And like, I don't want to add to like that factor. Like, I want to be as calming a presence, as like neutral as a presence as I can. So that's running through my head. It's like, I'm in her space, right? I'm in C's like house. She's bringing it to me like, the sign is pretty obvious, but like, what if like, okay, 99% of me is like, okay, this is a green light, right? But what if that 1%, I make a move, it's not wanted, now she feels unsafe in her space. Like, I've still got a whole nother day there. Like, I don't want her to ever for a second be like, that was a mistake. Or like, I even like long term, I don't want her to like have to give up on Airbnb and because some guy made a move on her and now she doesn't feel comfortable. Like, that kind of thing was like running through my head. I'm like, I would rather miss out on the opportunity of like whatever it was, like a night, an encounter, even though I was crushing on her. Like, she's so smart and so funny and so kind and like so beautiful, and so the energy was right. Like, the I heard one time that like, when you meet your soulmate, it's not supposed to be like crazy heartbeats and like wow 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 wow, wow, like cartoon, like eyes popping out, heart popping out the chest, boom 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 boom. Oh God. It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be like calm and like very peaceful. And I don't know how true that is. I don't really believe in a lot of stuff, but like, it's nice to think about. And that's where I can like frame it for this, is when I was around her, I felt a peace I didn't know existed. So it's like, and also I didn't want to like mar anything that we had. Like, we had an awesome week, right? I met her friends. We had this whole vibe, and just, we talked about books and just religion. We talked about anything under the sun, and she recommended me going out to this beach, and I ended up going to the beach, and it was the best beach I'd been to up until that point. And it was like, we had this awesome time, and I would hate for one misstep to like now ruin it all. And like that's the only thing you look back on this trip on, and like that's the only thing she looks at me and or like thinks of me as is some dude who made a move that was unwanted. But it was mainly like the safety thing. Like I don't ever want somebody to, like especially a woman, to feel unsafe around me, or to feel even like a hint of like that she has to be conscious or wary of me, like ever. So alas, I just continued reading my book. I let the song end. She played a few more different songs, still kind of romantic, but then eventually it cut off and it was quiet. And so I kept reading, I kept waiting. I was waiting actually for her to like kind of go to bed or turn off her lights. But she never. I remember when I was getting sleepy, and I went up and like I could kind of see into her room, and I kind of gave a little knock and was like, "Hey, I'm going to bed." Yeah, but to putting the button on this story, the next day I went. Well, no, that I think sometime that week I had realized, okay, she's pretty special. Like she's real cool, and she helped make this trip what it was. Like this trip wouldn't be nearly as memorable if it wasn't for her. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get her a gift, just to like a farewell gift, a thank you gift. And I love giving books out as gifts. One of my favorite things to do is like get somebody a gift, a book that either they've talked about wanting to read or I think they might like, or one of my favorite books. And I remember there was this Kurt Vonnegut book. What was it called? Whale something? Blue something? Bluebeard maybe? I can't remember what book it was, but I remember I went to the bookstore, I picked it up, and in the inside I wrote an inscription, more or less saying, hey, you made this trip amazing. You made me feel so comfortable. I'm glad we met. And then the last day I was there, I gave it to her, and then I flew back, and it wasn't until later in the week, I think she hit me up on a message like, hey, thank you so much for the book. She also loves giving books as gifts. It was like it almost made her tear up. And then she started telling me that like she almost canceled for that week. She almost told me, or like canceled it because she wasn't in a good spot, but she was really glad that it was me and that I stayed down there and that we met. And then I told her about how I felt so comfortable around her, and she said she felt the same. And I was like, that's really cool. Like if we just leave it at that, that's really cool that you can spend a week with somebody, a complete stranger from a complete different region of the country, and have such a connection that it makes your trip wonderful. C and I have actually like follow up to the story. C and I have like kept in touch. We email each other quite not regularly, but like every once in a while when we're thinking of one another, we'll like email each other and like kind of catch up on what we're doing and talk about life and books. And the thing about her is she taught me that for any relationship, like one of the biggest things for me is being able to talk about the big stuff. Not necessarily like know everything about the big stuff, but like be able to talk about it. Like something about being able to talk about my favorite books, or about like religion, or about politics, or things like that, where like I don't like to necessarily talk about that in my day to day, but to at least be able to speak on it with somebody who's like close is like, it's really important. Like she's just so smart. I like the way she thinks, and it's so attractive to me that when we can speak on like just anything, dumb stuff, smart, like it doesn't matter, whatever it is, like we can just talk about it. Um, so yeah, she really kind of opened my eyes to what I want a long-term partner to, or what I want that to look like for me. And she's funny, boy. She's real funny. But yeah, Charleston is a whole vibe. You go out there, you'll meet cool people, you'll eat really good food. The beaches, man, the beaches are where it's at. Let's see. We've been doing a couple hours. Let's get into one more place. Should we do Paris? We'll save kind of the, I guess we just did Charleston. We'll save more of the America trips, like the Hawaii trips and like the East Coast stuff for its own little section. So let's do Paris, since I spoke on it earlier. So like I said, in my list of favorite places, 3, Charleston, 2, Mexico City, number 1, Paris. Paris is dirty and kind of grungy and beautiful all at once. Like Paris was like my first introduction into like a European, like a classic, like an old European city. And it was way dirtier than I expected. Like it was like dog pee, like, you know, dog pee everywhere. Not everywhere, but like, you know, dogs pooping here, and like it was just not, I don't know, you never think of like the cleanliness of a city, at least I hadn't until then. And it was just like really grungy, but in the best way, if that makes sense. Like to me, I was talking to my sister Sam about this, and like that, what I just said there would immediately make her not want to go to Paris. Like no buts about it, she's not going anymore. But for me, it's the opposite, where it's like I love cities that have character and that have kind of a grunginess, because like I don't want a cookie cutter. I don't want like that like too pristine, because then I don't feel comfortable. Then it's like I don't it's just not uncomfortable, or it's not comfortable to me. It's like I love a little bit of grunginess. I love a little bit of dirtiness, because it's real. It's like authentic. Everything else feels like kind of, I've never seen Stepford Wives, but what I picture Stepford Wives is like perfect manicured, like perfect trimmed lawns, perfect everything. Like that's just, I don't like that. So Paris is definitely a little bit dirty, but it's such a vibe. I went out there and I stayed for a week. And I remember first the people I was staying with were really cool. They were like teachers, I think. And they picked me up from like the local McDonald's where I was going to meet them. And like took me back to the place. And it's this really cool like area in the city. But like you got to enter a gate and like go through. And it's like kind of secluded. And it's really cool. I mean, it's right in the middle, but I think I was in the, I want to say the, how do you say it? Arrondissement? I can't say, I can never say it. Then I think it was in the 9th. Let me see. Where's the Bastille? Oh no, I was in the 11th. The 11th arrondissement. Arrond, hmm. I can only say it if I hear it. But I was in the 11th, and it's really cool because it's away from like the main touristy drag area, and it felt very much like the local spots. The Bastille was there, but it was also like just really cool shops and like gardens and stuff. And so I remember they picked me up from the McDonald's, and I like the first day I like set all my stuff down in the room I was staying in. And keep in mind, I want to say I was maybe 23 or 24 at this trip, something like that. And so I'm like fresh faced, never been to Europe before. I remember that first night I got there, I was walking around and it was beautiful and magical, and it was springtime, so it was like still warm. And um, I remember going to this like restaurant, and I okay, so you know how my Spanish isn't like that great. My French is even worse. Like my French, I learned more French while I was there than I had ever picked up in class or anything. I think I even took like a year or two of French in school, but I more or less could. I was doing like Duolingo beforehand just to kind of prep myself, so I could say like I could count to three, un, deux, trois. I could. That was about it, you know. So I remember that first night was kind of comical because I was like hungry after the like getting to my spot, and so I went out to go find food, and I hit up this restaurant. And I remember I got up to I went inside, and the lady at the reception or the main area, whatever the front area of the house is, the restaurant. I was like trying to like somehow like all the French just went out of my brain at that moment, right? Like this is the first interaction I'm having with someone who like speaks mainly French, and obviously that's the time when the French just goes out of your brain. So all the words for food I had remembered, all the words for like, you know, anything was gone, right? So I'm just like trying to mime like food. I couldn't even think. Like I still right now I can't even think of the word for food in French, but and it took her a second to like realize like what was going on, and then she's like, no, 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 and I was like, no, I was like, food, like hungry, like just trying anything. It's just like, but I could tell in her eyes like she wasn't being mean. She was just like, no, 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 and then eventually, like after like 30 seconds, she was able to like tell me, like explain like kitchen's closed. Like, and I was like, oh, and I like that was my first evening there, right? So I don't know any of the like the culture. I don't know more than what I've read in books or online. Like I don't remember that like what time certain areas close up for the night or what time kitchens close. Like I don't know any of that. I don't know the customs. So I'm like, it's like maybe 9 or 10 o'clock and I'm just like looking for food, right? So I remember like I remember like that's always the first like initial shock of like being somewhere where you don't speak the language like primarily. Is like when I went there and I was like just trying to get food but not being able to, not, and it was like, ooh, beg it. But I ended up, I think I went back to that McDonald's I had stopped at, and I got like a Big Mac for the first meal. So first meal in Paris, a Big Mac, and it actually was real good, like better than ones I've had here in America for some reason. But so Paris was a whole lot of baguettes and exploring. I went through, man, I went through just about every interior neighborhood in that spot. Like once again, when I'd wake up, I'd drink some coffee, and the people I was staying with, like they had like a baguette spot they would go to in the morning. I can't remember what it's called. Is it a patisserie, or I know that's pastries. I don't remember what it is for bread, but they had a local spot. They would get bread every morning. So every morning I would wake up. They'd be at work by the time I wake up, because your boy's gonna wake up at like 9 a.m. right? No matter what part of the country that I'm in, it's gonna be 9 a.m. that time. That's when I wake up. But every morning I'd wake up and they'd have like this bread, like this loaf of bread, and like a thing of jam, like right on the counter for me. And so I'd wake up, I'd make a little thing of coffee, I'd spread the jam and the butter on the bread and the baguette, and I'd eat it. And I kid you not, it was incredible. Like, something in that bread is like laced with like some type of cocaine or drug or something. Something in there is just, it like reacts well with your chemicals, your molecules. It's just like this is amazing. And I said it earlier, I never felt strongly about bread. You know what I thought about bread before? It's there. That's what I thought about bread. Nothing more than, well, it exists. Every once in a while, I'll put a few meats and cheeses in between them and call it a day. If I'm being honest, I'd rather eat the chips. Like, the chips are the more exciting part. If I have a chips and sandwich, I'm more excited about the chips. The sandwich could either be there or not. Don't really care. It's like the opening band at a concert. It's like, yeah, I'm not really here for you. I mean, I'll stay because I have to. I already paid, but not what I'm looking for. But that French baguette bread is different. It is different. It's like the perfect vehicle for bread and jam. The perfect flavor, like the saltiness. I don't know what combination of things. I don't even know what goes into it. I know, obviously, like flour, yeast, magic, water, like that kind of, they mix it together and they come out and it's this crusty, crispy, soft, crunchy. How can something be crispy and soft at the same time? How? Like, how can you get a crunch and a soft at the same time? The French, man, they understand it. Like, say what you will, those baguettes are fire. But anyways, in the morning, coffee, nothing like that is actually like legitimately my favorite breakfast now. But I can only do it if it's like a French baguette. Like, here, I'm usually more of a cereal and milk kind of dude with OJ. Every once in a while, I'll do some fresh fruits or like even Pop-Tarts. I love me a good brown cinnamon sugar Pop-Tart. But I could easily see myself, if I was living in Paris, every morning just a baguette, butter and jam situation. Like, that's crazy to me, because here in the States, I don't eat bread like that. I don't wake up and have toast and jelly. Nah. But there, amazing. So if you ever go to Paris, make sure to hit up a really good baguette place. I know there's a term for baguette place. I just don't know it. De toi. That's what I know. But, and désolé, which means sorry. Because anywhere I go, I like to learn. Oh, nope. Por favor, Spanish. Désolé. I like to know, like, the sorry wherever I'm from. Please and sorry and thank you. But if you're in Paris, get a baguette at a good spot and get some bread and jam. Actually, one of my favorite memories in Paris was I did that very thing. I went to, after eating the baguette I had already had that morning, I went out and searched for another baguette. That's how we're talking. We're having 2 times in the same day kind of good. So I go to this baguette spot, get a big loaf of bread. I go to this cheese spot and I get some cheese and I get some jam. And I take the train over to the Eiffel Tower, and I sit the entire afternoon and I just eat this baguette with this cheese, or the baguette with the jam, or even them together like ratatouille style, like the cheese and the jam. Literally my favorite scene in Ratatouille, when he's doing the grapes and the cheese, but and the rat's like, that don't taste no different. His little rat friend. But in this particular instance, it was perfect. Like sitting, watching all the people like picnic around the Eiffel Tower, watching the Eiffel Tower itself, like just in all its glory, eating this baguette with the jam was just awesome. That's one of my favorite memories. I can almost picture it clear as day. There's a woman playing with her child, like they're playing with this like round red ball, and like the kid's maybe 2 or 3, and he's like she's like tossing it, and he's going pretty much fetch, like playing fetch with her kid, but in like in a cute way, like not in like a demeaning way. He was just like so excited to go grab it, and he'd stumble and it was too big for him, so he'd have to like use his arms like this, and obviously he'd trip when on his way back, and she was laughing. Like it was a moment that like made me want to have kids, where it's like you could tell she was enjoying his presence, and he was obviously enjoying chasing this red ball. And it was also cool because it's like for all I know they're French, so it's like it's a completely different culture, but there's still just as much love and just as much joy as there are over here, like little things like that. But anyway, so France, yeah. So I'd wake up in the morning, have my coffee and baguette situation, and then I would just explore. I would just wander up and down all these streets. I would get gelato from this place when it called for it. I would get just different snacks here and there. I would eat lunch here and there. By then I was kind of picking up, in the mornings when I had Wi-Fi, I would pick up like different phrases, like just Google Translate, hey, how do you say this in French? So they would arm me with enough like conversational skill to get through that particular day. And it'd be funny because I'd get down at the end of the day and I'd be like, dang it, I wish I would have known how to say this. So I'd Google it, and like I learned that. That's how I learned désolé, because like when I took the train, I was accidentally bumping into people, but I didn't know how to say like excuse me or like sorry. So I just looked like an a-hole, like just like I'm sure they could tell by my facial expressions that like, you know, he didn't mean it. He's not obviously trying to do this, but like I still wanted a way to communicate, hey, sorry, I'm taking up too much space. I apologize. I'm American. Like, you know, I'm American. But I just ate and walked and saw most of it. Saw like I'm terrible at the names of things. Whatever that thing is that like pretty much burnt down, I saw that, and it was beautiful. And I saw all these different, like all the architecture. I went to the Museo d'Orsay, pretty much the Orsay Museum, which was incredible. It was like, so planning a trip. Let me backtrack. When I travel, especially if it's going to be like at least a week, what I do is I plan one or two things for the whole trip. Like that's it. I want one evening or one afternoon specifically dedicated to this event, but the rest I just fill in with what I'm gonna do while I'm there. So this particular trip, like tattoos, like a lot of times I'll schedule one tattoo for the trip. Like that'll be what I do one evening, and then maybe one museum, and that's it. The rest is just free flowing. Like it's just how I like to do it. It's how it works for me. But so this trip, I planned. The only thing I had for this week was a trip to the Orsay Museum, and so what I was saying is it was between Orsay and the Louvre, and as you know by now, I like to avoid as many people as possible. Like I don't like things that are like obviously going to be packed. And so between those two, I knew like, okay, I hear about the Louvre more. I'm assuming it's going to be more jam packed. Not really my speed. Let me go to the Orsay Museum, which is like kind of less popular, still popular, but like, plus it had a lot of impressionist like paintings, and like that's my jam. So I was like, okay, let's do that. Plus it was like I don't even know the building. I don't know if it's like an old hangar or if it's like I don't know what it was before, but it was beautiful. Like it was such a vibe. But so I didn't go to the Louvre. I went to the Orsay, which I recommend. I saw some Van Goghs. I saw some of my favorite paintings I have in my house. I saw at that museum. That's why I fell in love with Camille Pissarro. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I think he's an impressionist. And I could be wrong about all these words I'm saying. Impressionist. I could be. If you're an art major, please correct me. If you know anything about art, leave it in the comments what I'm really meaning to say. But more of the story is, so I'm at the Orsay Museum, right? And it's so cool. I'm seeing all this incredible art for the first time. It's beautiful. It's rainy outside, but inside it's just like a vibe. The light is perfect. They've got plenty of like warm light, but also like natural light. Somehow the way they have it is perfect. They know what they're doing. The French, they know what they're doing. Baguettes and museums, like they got it on lock. But so I'm like seeing all these beautiful paintings, and then I went to this one specific room, and I can still picture it. Like the walls were darker. They had all these like beautiful impressionist paintings, and I get to one, and it is this scene of like this winter scene, right? And for some reason, it's a Camille Pissarro that I have like hanging up in my bedroom, but it's just this. When I sat in front of that, like I stood in front of it, and I felt like something unlock inside of me, like something different. Like I'd looked at, I'd just been to London, and I'd seen probably maybe 100, 200 paintings at this point, but I stood in front of this one, and it was different. Like I had an emotional response to this one. First time in my entire life that a painting had like gotten that kind of response from me. And I just stood there, just staring at it, and for some reason, I felt it reminded me of being 19. It reminded me of this specific moment in time in the fall/winter in Iowa City, like the viewpoint, looking out across the street and feeling good, and also feeling cold and feeling happy and warm. And all of that was happening. I was reliving these feelings while I was looking at this painting of this like cold winter setting. Like the way, but he keeps it warm too. It's like he paints this winter scene, but it's like the lighting is warm and like almost early evening, like that 4 p.m., 5 p.m. in the wintertime with a pink and orange light. I don't know, man. That, maybe I'll link that in this, like a picture of it, because it's incredible. Like it just changed. Like I sat down after, like I stood at it and I stared for like 30 seconds feeling these things, and I had to sit down. Like I remember there's a bench right in front of the painting itself, so I took a seat and I stared for like 2 or 3 minutes, just like having this like moment. Like I can't remember if it like brought me close to tears, but it like definitely made me feel like something swell up. Like, oh, this is why people fight battles for art. This is why people like do this. Like this is why this is what it means. I didn't understand it until that, but I was staring at it and just getting lost in it. And at some point, I got up and kind of kept going, but that stuck with me forever. Like that, seeing that made me realize why art is important and what art can do. But yeah, so I continued on seeing just beautiful art. Nothing really hit me like that one, but it was still, I mean, there's beautiful works. And yeah, then I went and got some delicious food. But yeah, the Orsay Museum, highly recommend. Also in Paris, I got the worst meal of my life and one of the best meals. The worst meal of my life was this just awful bolognese like stew. Just a beef stew. I don't remember what it was, but it was a beef stew, but it was not flavored right. I was at a market and I had high hopes because it smelled delicious, and it was just like a really cool looking market, and everyone looked happy. But if you try the soup, you're not going to look happy. It was not good. It was like tart somehow and like sour, but not good sour. And like it was beefy too. So it was like a sour tart beef stew. Like, tell me if that is something you want to have. A sour tart beef stew. I ate about 2.5 bites and threw it away. And I am not one to throw away food. Like, I don't like wasting food, but I had to. Like, it was disgusting. And then the best meal of my life was, or not, I guess it wasn't a meal of my life, but one of the best was this, I kind of splurged at this spot to have like a higher end like French meal. It wasn't like any Michelin like crazy thing, but it was like, kind of expensive for, I was 23, 24. So I get this, I go to this like 3-course place, and they start with like a sardine sandwich, which is delicious, or sardine salad, sorry. That was pretty good. And I never had sardines before, but I had them and they were delicious. And then I think the main course was this ravioli in a spinach cream sauce that was delicious. I mean, it was like the perfect flavor. Everything that beef stew wasn't, this thing was. Like, it was like the perfect flavors. The flavors like melded well together. Like, it was like a little bit cheesy and creamy, but the spinach, like that tartness, that pucker was like perfect with it. And the pasta was perfectly cooked. And I remember I had some wine with it, and it's just like delicious. I tried tartare while I was down there, which is like raw beef. Not really my thing. It wasn't necessarily the rawness that took me out of it, but it was like, it's just imagine eating raw beef, and then you eat the raw beef. That's what it is. That's what all tartare is. I mean, obviously they mix up some, I don't know, onions and things inside of it, like to make it, I guess, edible or flavorful. I don't know if there's chemical reactions that make the meat less, I don't know. All I know is we're spending a lot of time on tartare. It was all right. Don't go out of your way to have it, is what I'm saying. I was going to try snails, but I felt too on the nose about ordering escargot. Like, I felt like it was too much of like a tourist thing was to get escargot. Plus, I'm not really a fan of snails. Like, I seen Turbo like one time. Just not my cup of tea. But you know what is my cup of tea? A cup of tea. And I have plenty of tea over there, and it's delicious. Also, another thing that happened to me in Paris was awesome is like, let me make sure we're still good. Let me see. One of my favorite all time favorite things as a traveler is when I'm in a foreign place, a foreign city, a place I've never been to. A tourist, right? I'm a tourist to this place, but I get mistaken for a local. That's chef's kiss. When I am a tourist and it's like my first time in a city, but somebody comes up to me, like another tourist, and asks me for directions. That happened to me like 3 times in Paris. Like, where people just come up to me and like, hey, first of all, they come up to me and like, if they came up to me and spoke French, I'd be in trouble because immediately they'd be like, oh, yeah, you're not from around here. But usually it's like either an American or like someone speaking English, or like, so I know that they're also a tourist. Like, so, although a French woman did ask me how to get to a train stop, and by then it was like the end of my trip, so I could kind of parse together how to get there. So that made me feel good too, because like an actual French person was like, hey, how do I get to the bus stop? And I could help her. I hope I helped her. I hope she made that bus. I don't know. Seemed kind of important. She was crying. It was like, hopefully she made it wherever you're at. But no, I remember I think a lot of it has to do with like what I dress, like the way I dress while I'm traveling. Like, that Rick Steves effect is so accurate. When you go overseas, especially in Europe, I saw so many people dressed like Rick Steves. Now, if you don't know who Rick Steves is like the antithesis of who I am as a person. Like, I'm sure he's a real cool dude in real life, but the way he travels, the things he's interested in, the way he dresses is like the opposite of me. Like, the way I'd like to think about it is like, if okay, here's Rick Steves, and on the other opposite of the spectrum, Anthony Bourdain. Like, I don't know if you know Anthony Bourdain, but R.I.P. I'm doing a lot of this today. It's because of Chef Kiss. It's French, I think, or Italian. But Anthony Bourdain is over here, where he's like the edgy one. Rick Steves is like the buttoned up, like good guy, more or less. But Rick Steves essentially is like, he's like a walking nap. Like, if you could picture like you the most boring history teacher you have, and then just throw some khakis on him and a strong bowl cut, like a strong bowl. Come on, you got Rick Steves. And I like Rick Steves. That's the thing. I watched a lot of his stuff before I traveled just to get like insight, and like, I like him, but he is not the way I travel. I don't go to, apart from museums, I don't go to like cathedrals or like anything religious. Not my cup of tea. If it's yours, that's cool. It's not mine. He does a lot with like, he focuses a lot on like the history of things, which I'm not there yet. I'm not. It's just I like history a lot, but when I'm traveling, it's not like in the forefront of my mind. Like, I'm not like, oh, let's go see the oldest building in the town square. Like, no, I don't. It's cool that it exists, and if I walk by it and I see it without context, it's cool. But take me to the best burger spot in the city, or the best sushi spot. Take me somewhere like interesting to me, I guess. So, anyways, like, Rick Steves' effect is in full view when you're in Paris. Like, you see so many middle-aged people, usually white, like with the Rick Steves outfit. We're talking some kind of light shirt, could be a polo, could be like just a t-shirt, but then the giveaway is they've got the khaki cargo shorts with like 17 pockets, just all connected to, like, I'm assuming Rick Steves has like a radio transmitter like in the pockets, like giving them information as they go. Like, you got the high socks and either sandals or like brown dress shoes. Somehow it's like, bruh, put on some Converse or something. Maybe some hiking boots. Like hiking boots would make more sense. But y'all got some loafers. Like dang. I mean, you stay ready to nap, I guess. But and then they have like a backpack, like a small travel backpack, and then usually a fanny pack too. Like, but and don't get me wrong, I love a good fanny pack, but just with all those things together, all those pieces together, you're like, oh, you're American. It's so true. Like, it was almost like by the end of my trip there, I was like laughing to myself whenever I saw somebody, because it would be a different person, I think, just wearing this exact same like outfit, from the Rick Steves collection, like, and yeah, I'm the opposite, where like when I'm out and about, like I'm wearing like dark jeans. I usually got my leather jacket with me because it's such a all-purpose tool. It could be a blanket, it could be a pillow, it can be where I like my purse. Pretty much, I have pockets. It's comfortable. It's weatherproof. Like it's just my go-to. I know it also looks really cool. Like it's kind of like the bad boy look, I guess, which works well with my tattoos and my general ambiance. But so I got the leather jacket, usually like a tee, like something like casual, but like, and I usually got boots on. So I look much more, what's the word? Is it cosmopolitan? I look more edgy, kind of city type than obviously the khaki and the fanny pack wearers. It's just nothing against that look. Like I chuckle because it's so far from who I am. But like, if that's what you like to wear, do it. Like, I'm never gonna. All this is just jokes. Like, don't let me knock on your style or knock on what you do or what you prefer, what you're comfortable in. Like, always do what you're comfortable in. I'm just gonna be probably laughing a little bit, but you can laugh at me too. You can see me in my leather jacket. I'm like, oh, he thinks he's so cool, so hip, so chic. Like, we're all just traveling. But anyways, it makes me feel so good when someone's like, comes up to me and like, hey, do you know how to get to this spot? Because I'm like, oh, that vibe I'm giving off is working. Like, I love to be perceived as a local, because I don't know, it's just something, it's like a badge of honor to me, like that I can fit in there without knowing anything. It's like I don't know. It's like a compliment that I don't think they know they're giving while they're asking, but like, to me, I take it as a compliment. So anyways, like 3 times people asked me, like separate times, not just the same person asking me, but hey, how do you get here? Hey, how do you get here? Yeah, but how do you get here? And it felt really cool, even though the first 2 I was like, désolé, I don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry, I don't know where I am either. I'm actually just as lost as you. Matter of fact, do you know where I'm going? Like, how do I get to here? But so that was fun. I remember, I guess I'll hit you with the memories I have. I remember one evening I went for a walk, and I just happened to end up by that place that there was like a really bad shooting like the year before, and I think maybe a club or something in Paris. And I didn't know, I remember hearing about it, but I didn't know where it was, and I just happened to walk out, and I saw like unlit candles and like a little like memorial, I guess. And I look and I read it, and I'm like, oh, and there was like the pictures of the people who had passed, and like I had a moment of silence, because it's like, dang, that's crazy. Like, that's really right there. Like, people lost their lives there, like from a shooting there. Like, that's crazy. So I saw that, and then I kept walking, and like, I remember just chilling at this bench, and I was here, like, I heard people playing basketball in the distance, and like, for some reason, that is such a comfortable, like a comforting sound, is like someone playing or dribbling a basketball in the distance. And I don't know if it's because I love basketball so much, or like I grew up around it, or like my dad would be playing, or like my family members would be playing out in the garage, or like in the driveway just hooping. But like nowadays, when I hear someone dribbling in the distance, it's so comforting. And so I hear him dribbling, and I look over and it's not Tony Parker, unfortunately. Um, but it's like just some like people maybe a little bit younger than me, but they're French, so I can take them. I'm just kidding, but I almost joined in. But the thing that stopped me is like the ball they were using. Like I didn't like it. It was like one of those really grippy, like I remember it's like kind of black and almost matte black, but it's like the grippy ones. Like those who play, you know what I'm talking about. They don't shoot right. They don't feel right coming off the fingers. So like I knew even your layups, like they just bounce hard, like the rubber or something. Like I don't. So I knew for a fact I was not going to be putting up good numbers. Like I ain't going to take that L on Parisian soil, Nah, it ain't going to happen. So I'm undefeated, more or less. I'm not going to take that hard L with the rubber ball. Then, nah, it's not going to happen. I don't care if it's Tony Parker. I don't care if it's Rudy Gobert. Nah. But so yeah, that was cool. I wandered up around that same evening, just in different areas and neighborhoods, and it was just I saw like graffiti and stuff in places, and it was just a really cool city. The only thing with Paris though is I never felt like it was a place I would live, which is crazy to me because in my rankings it's top on the list of places I've been to. So you would think obviously that correlates with where I want to live, but for me those two are mutually exclusive, or can be, because when we're talking about places to live, it's a feeling to me. It's a vibe. It's like something innate within me that like I've only felt about a few places. And we'll talk about this probably in another one. But I've only felt this a handful of places. One being Chicago. One being Charleston. Well, no, Chicago was really, really high. There's like levels to it. Like Chicago, I could see myself moving there today. Except the winter. Charleston was like mid-grade. It was like I was feeling a vibe, but like it wasn't like the strongest vibe. Mexico City, that vibe was high. It's like I would move there today. Like that's actually still on the list of places I want to move to. And then Rome. Rome had this specific feeling. Almost anywhere I went in the city felt almost like nostalgic. Like you have I don't know. It's hard to explain to people. Like unless you know what I'm talking about, unless you feel this way about certain places, like it's the toughest thing to explain because a lot of people are just like happy where they're at, which is so cool. Like I wish I was that way. Like they're just wherever they're at is like their home. Like they just wherever they're born, that's their home. Like, but for me, I feel these like really, really strong tugs toward certain spots, certain vibes, certain energies, certain places at certain times. And it's like for Rome, the best way I can explain it was a feeling I got. I was walking home from getting a meal. It was like late evening. It was getting dark, but like the sky was like getting dark blue, but it wasn't like pitch black yet. It was like just that beautiful dark blue. The streetlights were coming on. I was passing a park. The wind was blowing through the trees. It was warm, like this sweet scent of like flowers in the air. I closed my eyes. I'm just letting this wind and this warmth like surround me. And it's just, that's what Rome felt like to me overall. Like that encapsulated like just the nostalgia. Just like I felt in a weird way like I had been here before and I had been here in the future. And like when I feel that to a place, that's like a really good sign of like, oh, like I need to explore this a little bit more. I need to kind of visit this place more often and see, because Rome for sure, that's pretty high on the list too of like places where, and I didn't want it to be Rome. That's the thing. I wanted it to be Paris. I wanted Paris because everything about Paris was such a vibe. It was like I vibed with the people, I vibed with the culture, I vibed with the food. It was very pretty, very very much like a place I would be in. It's like a lot of people. There wasn't that, you know. There's not like an emphasis on like um social. Like you don't have to talk to everyone. You don't have to, speak to everyone. You don't have to. I don't know. You don't have to. It's okay if you just go out and you order your food and you keep to yourself and like keep a small group around you. Like you don't. It's not like a affable like jolly situation all the time, which I love. I love being able to like navigate in my own space. So I wanted it to be Paris because Paris fit in my mind who I am, but I didn't feel the vibe like that for Paris. I felt like this is an awesome city. This is an awesome place. The food is incredible. The baguettes are amazing. But it's forever going to just be a place that I visit. Now, places around France, maybe. I still want to do a tour of France where I hit like Lyon and Marseille and Bordeaux and just all the regions. Like just pretty much run a loop and then end up in Paris because I want to explore Paris. But I want to do that loop and just kind of explore because on paper, France should be the place that I end up. Great food. Cool people, cool style, cool art, cool history. Just, I don't know. Part of me just wants to end up in a quaint little French village, where I just make good meals with fresh ingredients and have a few close friends, but like nothing too, nothing too crazy. That strawberry milk's coming back to me. But where it's like no real pressure to have this giant group of friends. It's just like cool. I'll just have my like 4 or 5 dogs, and that'll be life. Like I still hold on to that in the back of my brain somewhere because that would be such a vibe and it seems to fit with me. But the vibe is the vibe. And when you feel the feel, it's there. Like it's either there or it's not. And at least with Paris, it wasn't there. With Rome, it was strong as heck. And I was fighting it because even while I was there, I was like, man, I don't want that. No. I want this with Paris, but let's see. What's another interesting part about Paris? Oh, when I was in Paris, I had this big old beard. Like big. And it looked really like it was like the best shaped I've ever had my beard. Like it was just like perfect. It looked like, I don't know if you know Odell Beckham Jr., but like I had that like crisp shape to it, and it was like, and I got like dark facial hair, so it was like a dark brown beard. And I look back at my pictures in that like era, and it was cool because I almost want to grow that specific beard again just because of how cool it is, but like that's too much time. That's too much effort. But plus it's too hot. Like especially down where I'm living in the South, it's like that having that beard in the middle of the summertime. And I'm always worried, like I go through a lot of spider webs at work or like ticks and like just that just so freaks me out. Like what if you get like a spider or like a tick like crawling in your beard? Nah, let's not go there. That's why I'm actually pretty glad I'm bald, because like I don't have to worry about like a bunch of my friends. Like they'll have longer hair, and then when they survey, it's like I'm just always afraid like a spider. You hit a spider web the wrong way and it catches in your hair, and it's like now you just got spiders living in your hair. It's like they don't pay rent, so what's the situation? But yeah, so I had a really cool beard. The Eiffel Tower is incredible. It's like one of those. I'm not the touristy type. I'm not the one that goes to like the London Eye or like the just based on principle, like. And it's kind of like my downfall too, because like a lot of these things are touristy for a reason. Like a lot of these things are actually kind of fun if you let yourself do it. But I don't let myself do it. I don't want to be the crowds. Just that's rule number one. Like I don't want to be in the crowds. But B, it's like I'm that one, like I said, Anthony Bourdain, where it's like I find like the really interesting, that tattoo shop in the middle of Mexico City, no names, but it's like inside it's a vibe. That's who I am. I go to like the weird looking, like off the strip, like back alley restaurant that's like secretly fire with like a good soundtrack. That's who I like. In Paris, I went to this really, really like, it's in this like pretty like quiet neighborhood, but it's like some back alley. You had to go in, you had to go down some steps into like almost a house looking thing, but like inside it was like this really cool like 80s goth bar. Like they were playing like The Cure and the Smiths and like just that kind of stuff, and like really cool, interesting like people. It's like almost seemed like a costume party without the costumes. Like the vibes were immaculate. I tried a mint drink and I realized I don't like fresh mint. Not for me. As much as I like mint ice cream, like fresh mint is not. I don't like it. Do I drink it? Do I chew it? But like they were I remember playing The Cure, and like I was just vibing. They had like these like bay windows that you could sit on, and I was sitting on a bay window just watching people like partying, and I was like chatting up this girl, and it was like cool. And that's who I am. Like I find like the really, really like niche like spots that like aren't really well known, but like they're super dope. Like actually in Charleston, before Anthony Bourdain went there, like for a show, I remember I went to this bar and they had like dollar bills posted everywhere. Like I just found it like wandering around. I was like, that looks like a place I need to be. So I went in and I had some really good fish and chips there, and it was like a whole vibe. And I say a whole vibe a lot, so that's gonna be part of this, I guess. But I went there, had a good experience. Like I still remember that spot. I know exactly where it is. And it was really cool. And then lo and behold, like 2 years later, I see Anthony Bourdain, and he goes to that same spot, like the exact same, like dollar bills are on the wall, like that same spot. And like that made me feel proud, because it's like, yeah, I was there first. I already found it. Now, if Rick Steves had gone there, I'd have cried. I'd have been like, well, I'm done traveling. You know, sign me up for them khakis, I guess. You know, I wear 34 slim, so. Oh, only 16 pockets? Nah. I need 17 or more. 17 or more. Otherwise, no deal. But yeah, like I love finding like the little unheard of, like out of the way spots that end up being like memorable spots, versus like going to Times Square or things that like are just pretty much the symbol of that place. But back on what I was saying, the Eiffel Tower is different. The Eiffel Tower, I think what it's got going for it is like it's surrounded by a giant park. Like it's in the middle of this, like it's in the middle of the city, yeah, and there are avenues that kind of lead to it, but like around it is like this rectangle pretty much of just grass and like benches and parks and paths, where it's like, another big thing about me is I love parks. Like that's the best thing we did, is like people are in our cities, we put green spaces, like we put parks and benches and things. Like I think it's very, very important for humans to have contact with green spaces, grass, trees, nature, you know, the occasional squirrel. So like I think that's one of the smartest things we ever did as a a species was create parks. But the Eiffel Tower is just surrounded by this big park, essentially, and you can just sit there and just chill out, and it's like a respite from the day of like traveling or shopping or eating or walking. You just get to sit there and just hang out, and it's so open that the only thing like the main star is obviously the Eiffel Tower. It's massive. It's like beautiful. But like just they did well. They did well because it's like you can see the sky. You can see it's just framed so well that it's like you just feel comfortable. It's just a good spot. So the Eiffel Tower, actually, I went there like 3 times during that one trip alone. Like I specifically got on the train that day with the baguette and the cheese and the jam to go to the Eiffel Tower because it was like that was probably my favorite spot in the city that I found, which is crazy because it's a tourist spot, but it's a beautiful spot for a reason. Like it makes sense. And like when it gets dark, and then I don't know what the time period is, maybe every 15 minutes, every hour, it'll light up with all these like sparkly, the lights will just go off like crazy, just. And I've got videos on my phone of just the way it lights up, and everyone kind of goes ooh, and it's just kind of magical. And the first day I saw it was raining, so it was just like a perfect little introduction to the city. It's very magical city. Yes, dirty, but magical. So yeah, I love traveling. Also, I met a French. So I went to this cafe that was like right down the block from where I stayed, and it was a really good cafe. Like it was a really quaint, like charming. They would play jazz, like that kind of French jazz playing. I don't know if it was French. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I can tell you like American jazz, but as soon as you start crossing borders with jazz, I ain't got you. If you got Mexican jazz, if you got Canadian jazz, if you got French jazz, you got Sudanese jazz, I could not tell you. Hawaiian jazz, as soon as you start crossing overseas, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I can't distinguish between these jazz, right? So when I say French jazz, it could be Spanish jazz. It could be, anyways. It was such a cool like area and a cool hip little cafe, and I met this French woman, Claudette, and she was like the owner. She owned it with her friend, like this cafe. She was really, really pretty, and she reminded me of Melanie Laurent, like dark hair, or like light fair hair, I guess, fair hair, but like dark eyes and like kind of that French nose. And she was really pretty, and I loved her accent. And she was really kind to me. And at that market where I got that terrible stew, the reason I was there was I got her some sunflowers. And the sunflowers, I remember I mustered up the nerve to go down to the cafe, and I gave her the sunflowers, right? And she was just beaming, just smiling, and we couldn't really speak each other's language, but we could speak in, like, she knew what I meant, and it was cool because the next day I went to that cafe. She had the sunflower in the front, like, windowsill, just for everyone who was walking by. You could see the sunflower, and that made me so happy. I was like, oh my goodness, that's so wild. It was like a movie. I was like, I give this thing, and like she blushes, and it was definitely flirtatious. But yeah, that's actually a big reason. You see this? I don't know if you can see. Let me see. I don't know if you can see the sunflower I have right here. But part of the reason I got this sunflower is because it commemorates that trip to France. It was either this or a terrible bowl of stew, or just a baguette. And the baguette was close. I kid you not, I was close to getting a baguette, but I don't know, like the sentimental factor of like the sunflower and being in a Parisian cafe and meeting cool people and meeting this cafe owner who like I vibed with, and that whole sunflower moment also reminds me of like not specifically her, like that's only part of it. It was like being in the market and like everything having to do with Paris is like wrapped up in the sunflower. So before you get any ideas, it's not because I was hung up on a girl. No, it was like it kind of commemorates. It's like the symbol of my trip there. That like, it's nice. So yeah, a little extra detail about me is that. But yeah, Paris. If you haven't been, even you, Sam, even though you don't like dirty places, it's not gross. It's just, it's been lived in, Paris, I recommend it. I'd say if you have the opportunity, I mean, the flights from like the US I've been looking into aren't that crazy. Like you can find some really good deals to get to Paris. I recommend it. I'd say stay more than a weekend, just because the flight itself is like, I don't know, at least 10 hours. I don't remember what it is exactly. Like it's something where it's like you don't want to spend one of your full days or 2 of your full days flying if that's all you got. But I'd say at least like a 4-day weekend, spend the first and last day flying and the second or the 2 in the middle just exploring. But like ideally take 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 days off, if it's feasible, and just go. Like it's so much more. I think a lot of times, me especially, like will like build it up in my head so much like it's an unattainable thing. Like, oh, A, I'm never gonna get that time off. B, it's just so much hassle. You gotta figure out what you're gonna do with your dog. You gotta figure out what you're gonna do with your car. You gotta figure out all these things. But like at the end of the day, none of that matters. Like when I'm looking back at these trips, I never think about like the process that it took, like all the barriers I had to overcome to take this trip. I just think about this trip. I think about this flower. I think about the food. I think about the baguette. I keep talking about it, but bro, so good. But like, right, all these things that like can stop you from taking a trip. It's just really, yeah, they're inconvenient, but you can do them. So like, if you have a chance, if you got any vacation days saved up, and you've always been thinking about going to Paris, just do it. Like, it's so manageable. It's so easy to get around. I took the train several times, or like the subway, like several times without knowing any French. Like, I don't know any French. More than maybe 10 phrases, if that. Like, I kid you not, I can't. It's not good. It's not. I should have learned more, but despite that, I had a great time. You're gonna eat well. You're gonna see some really cool stuff. You're gonna probably be enamored by the charm of the city. Like the charm, they are not kidding when they say that place is charming. Like there's a reason you think of that place as like romantic, like honeymoon spot, because it's just, it oozes out of that city. No matter what you're doing, even if it's just like a Tuesday evening, you just kind of hear the restaurants as you're walking by. The lights just for some reason are just like on a different level. Like the Paris lights are just like cozier, and the streets are manageable, and everything just looks like a movie. So that's my one recommendation. I've got a bunch of recommendations for places, but I would say one of the top on the list, if you haven't seen Paris, go to Paris. Make that trip, book the flight. It's not that bad of a flight. It's very easy to navigate. Just do it. And if you do it, tell me about it. Like I said from the beginning, I love hearing about trips. I love hearing about travel. I love hearing about, especially like even like almost more so places I've already been, because I can relate to it. You can, when you're telling me about these places, I can visually picture them. But yeah, if you end up going, let me know. Maybe refer back to this, or like whatever it is, just tell me about it. Or if you're planning on it, or if you've always wanted to, just tell me that too. Like, I'm so curious. Let's see. Man, we're going on about 4 hours. You guys having fun? Hopefully are you enjoying this? Because I am. You know, hope you're cozy and listening, and they put you in a good vibe, and maybe you can picture these places. Maybe you've been to Paris and you can imagine it. Maybe you've been to Mexico City and you've imagined it, or maybe you've never been there, but this gives you kind of an insight, kind of like maybe it starts painting a picture for you of these places you've always wanted to think about or see. Or maybe you're just wanting to hear my voice fill up the space. Maybe you're in your room and you just needed a friendly voice to listen to, which is cool too. That's all right. Hopefully you guys are doing well, but if you're in a tough spot right now, just know you're not alone. The people love you. You are wanted, and you are worthy, and you are loved. So that's probably all I got for you guys today. Like I said, I could talk about travel literally someone got to come take this microphone from me, because I could talk about travel till I'm blue in the face, till it's time for bed. But we'll save. We'll probably do a part 2 and a part 3, because I really want to talk about Chicago and how it feels for me. And I want to talk about Boston and San Francisco and Hawaii and Rome, and just I've been to a bunch of places, so it's just one of my favorite things is to travel, but also then I love to talk about my experiences. And also, don't shy away from Mexico City. Don't let the media, whatever we've grown accustomed to, like with our perception of Mexico, don't let that color all of Mexico. It's not a monolith. It's just like America. It's like, yeah, there are sketchy parts, but like we're still living here and we still enjoy it. And there are people who people love their city. It's just like it's the same, but it's just a few miles south, right? It's like, I don't know. It's like picturing an entire country with a whole bunch of like people who've lived there for decades and centuries, like entire generations have lived there, but we're just all like, we're pretty much like, oh, that's South Central LA. And I don't even know if South Central LA is like bad anymore. It just got that bad rap, in the 90s, but like we're just pretty much saying the entire country is like that, apart from the tourist like Cabo and like those places, right? It's like there's no way an entire country can be like that, and I don't know if that's the best way to say it. I don't know, but the moral of the story is Mexico City is so freaking cool. It's like that's the best word to describe that place. Cool. Like it is the coolest place I've been to. Like just in terms of like hip. Like you always hear about like hip cities, like cool cities. Like that's top. Like the fashion out there is just next level. The like I said, the art and the food and everything is just cool. It's very hip. And it's a lot younger than I thought too. Like a lot of people just were like my age, like just walking around living life, working and doing all that. Yeah, you got the abuelas and kind of the grandma figures and the grandpa figures and like the old guys at the carts like selling stuff. Like yeah, but that happens here too. But go to Mexico City's there too. It's like that one is one, go to it if you feel like being surprised. Like and go to it without like the preconceptions of what you think it's gonna be, because it's gonna blow your mind. I guarantee you, it's gonna be one of the coolest places you visit. If you can go get over that like initial like fear or like that prejudice, I guess, which I had to get over it too. It's like it turns out to be it like, I think it's a Rick Steves quote actually. It's like the best kind of travel challenges your perceptions and kind of opens your eyes to the truth and not what your imagination is. So I hate to be quoting Rick Steves, but Mexico City definitely challenged my perception of Mexico and for the better. Like, it's just such a cool place. But yeah, that's enough of that. We're probably gonna end it here. Let's see. So today is Sunday, so I might try to stream maybe middle of the week. So look out for maybe Wednesday or Thursday, somewhere around there. So yeah. Hope you guys had fun. Now you guys got a good almost 4 hours of me talking to listen to and digest and dissect, and yeah. Let me know what you think. Leave comments, subscribe, whatever you do, or not. I'm just happy to be here. So I'll see y'all later. Sleep well. I'm gonna let my puppy out and probably eat some ramen. Sleep well, y'all.